Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to today's daily news analysis. As always, we are referring to the Hindu newspapers, Delhi edition. And I have double checked if I have clicked on the recording button. Okay, so we have Sanjay Roth sent to Enforcement Directorate. So, yesterday also I referred to this news over here. So, I'll repeat this. The thing is that Enforcement Directorate is there in the news, so we should know basic idea about what is Enforcement Directorate. Now, Enforcement Directorate is there for implementation of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So that means money laundering. Okay. Now we also know, so if it is there, first of all, if it is there to implement the the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So if somebody is going for the guesswork in the prelims paper, they will say this is a statutory body. Well, this is an attached office in Ministry of Finance, right? So this is one thing. Now, another important development that has taken place is recently Parliament amended Prevention of Money Laundering Act, giving more powers to the Enforcement Directorate. So more powers and also a possibility of it being misused, as this MP Sanjay Raut calls his arrest a conspiracy to finish Shiv Sena. Just an example. So there were concerns about this. So members of the opposition plus some, political activists. So they went to the Supreme Court. They went to the Supreme Court and they said that please review this law. This law seems to be unconstitutional. So Supreme Court said it is very, very valid. The amendments that are made, these are not unreasonable. The powers that have been given. Money laundering is a menace. Money laundering is a menace and we need to address this. That is why Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Okay. So what I was saying in the yesterday's newspaper also, that one thing is that every day we are having these opinions on Prevention of Money Laundering Act in the newspapers. Every day it is there, specifically with reference to the amendments which that Supreme Court has held valid. So looking at that, we don't really have to read each and every opinion because these opinion pages are lengthy, and I know as a student, when I was a student, I used to take a lot of time on this. Plus, every day a new point will come. So what I would suggest is having a single analysis on what is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Naturally, when you're talking about this, you should know what is money laundering. So Prevention of Money Laundering Act and basic pros and cons you should have. Besides this, it is not required to read every day. Once you have been able to do that, it is sufficient, right? Because we have to think from the exam point of view only, right? So, and the exam max at best, you will be asked 250 words and it has to be in a structured way. If you keep reading one article after the other, it becomes difficult. So just consolidate the points and finish it. Don't have to read it again and again. Save your time. I'll also make a video. I'll make a video on money laundering, and naturally money laundering will talk about Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now this money laundering is a very important part of your GS3. Repeatedly questions have been asked in the internal security paper. And when I say repeatedly, I mean an average of 3 years, one question on money laundering. And given that specifically this particular means 2022, we can expect a question on money laundering. Okay. Next is Parliament. Obviously, essential items have been taxed recently. So a decision was taken by the GST Council. So essential items have been put under tax. So Nirmala Sitharaman ji, the finance minister, is saying that it is not going to burden the poor. I don't know, and I know what she would have. I've not read this, but I know what she would have said because she had already made this statement before. And she said there are already taxes that were being levied on these essential items by the states. So these have been consolidated, and in fact, it has been reduced. So states were charging much more. We have actually reduced that. So they were already taxed items. So that has been rationalized. Okay. Moving on. 8 killed, 5 injured, not important. I mean, it's bad news, but yes. Okay, GST collections jumped by 28% on imports. Now, I was thinking of two things. This news we can take up it to two ways. What is this indicating? So, first of all, when we have GST, what is GST? Anything that we buy, anything we buy, in that there is GST. Right? We have to pay a tax over there, be it goods or services. Except for our courses on our channel, IASPrimers, we don't have GST right now. Okay. So GST, right? So anything that is bought or sold, GST is levied on that. The government charges the GST. So that means if GST collection is more, that means buying and selling is taking place, more buying and selling is taking place. So in other words, we can say there is more demand overall. So this seems to be a good news. If GST is increasing, even if imports are increasing, that means people are earning more and they are able to import more. And traditionally, we don't have that manufacturing this thing also. So more and more of imports come to our country. So this is generally, this will be considered as a good sign. Now, what I feel is that it is actually on account of not really demand being increasing. It is on account of the value of imports. See, our currency has been depreciating. So let's say I buy an iPhone of, let's say it is still in USA, it is $1,000. It was last year, this year also it is $1,000. But last year the currency was rupees 70 per dollar. Today it is rupees 82 per dollar. So a person who's spending on just buying an iPhone, who's buying an iPhone at $1,000, same product, but he's spending more money, right? He's spending more money because it is now 82,000. Earlier it was 70,000. So if we see this way, if we look at it monetary point of view, the import value has actually increased, but imports really haven't increased. So this could be a reason that the GST collections have jumped. It is the highest in 3 months. Otherwise, there is no such explanation in that. And this article doesn't talk about that, by the way. Okay, Jio tops as 5G auction nets rupees 1.5 lakh crore, and be prepared to pay that when the service comes. Okay, LG approves extension for excise policy. These are steady news, not important. These are important. Delhi logs 10 dengue cases. So please be careful, dengue and chikungunya. I know what the logic is. But some years I find more of dengue than dengue is not there, chikungunya is there. But it is the same family of virus that causes the dengue and the same mosquito also. Okay. Now, naturally, this is a mosquito-borne disease. It's caused by the mosquito. And we have number of diseases in our country that are caused by mosquito. So what is the government doing about that? Right, so we have this National Vector Disease Control Program. So read about that. So what is the government doing about that? What measures should be taken? Maybe we can prepare that. It's never been asked, but we should be ready. Okay, so that is one thing. And if you do that, it will automatically help you with your pre as well, because you can get the 40 points. Okay, so this is there. Then let's leave it at this. Second monkeypox case in city. Fine. So patient with no foreign history is also getting it. So it's a sign that the disease is spreading. Okay. Now this is interesting. Today's newspaper, in fact, previously also, there have been this, especially today's, livestock diseases are in news. So one is this lumpy skin disease, right? So what is this lumpy skin disease? So this is there. Then there is an opinion in the, obviously in the opinion section about disease, animal husbandry and disease. So I have shared that opinion on my Instagram also. So you can read that. I want you to have a note on the same actually. So I've written the pointers also. I'll show you later. Okay, so lumpy skin disease spreads to 25,000 bovines. So we get it. It's associated with the cattle, bovines in Rajasthan. It is also there in Gujarat. So farmers aren't, it has affected the cattle farmers over here, actually. Now, what is this lumpy skin disease? So, yeah, it is an infectious disease in a cattle caused by a virus. So, these things are taken up by UPSC. Is it caused by a virus, bacteria? So, it is caused by a virus. And here also, UPSC can segregate, like, it can post the name of the virus, and from there we have to pick up. Right, so it is also known as poxyviride, also known as neethling virus. Right, so then other thing could be like it's a lumpy skin disease, and then some features about the lumpy skin disease and one odd one out. So some like that question can also be there. Statement wise question can be there. Okay, so this is there. I don't think we should read that. Read this more. There's already one. Okay, AAP changes tack. No more fights with the Lieutenant Governor. This is basically an analysis of the news. I don't think they have said anything of that sort. So let's see. This would be a good thing. Now, what I want to say is that we have this 11th class NCRT book, 11th class NCRT book, and in that first chapter, Constitution, why and how. You can see it in the sample video also. So just browse to the last part of that video. So the last part is actually discussing a theme that is mentioned in the NCRT, NCRT, which is talking about the need for clear demarcation of powers. So this is a very, very important thing, because this tension that is there between, obviously one is political reasons, but it is also because poorly designed, not very clearly defined powers of the chief minister as well as the lieutenant governor. There is always a scope of them claiming more powers, them claiming more powers. And as a result of which, there is a typical blame game that goes on. So there is a blame game that goes on. People suffer because of that. There is lack of accountability either on him or him. Even judiciary has taken a strong note of this. Fine. State-sponsored biryani festivals should not exclude beef. What I found was the SC Commission. So mentioned in your Lakshmikant book, statutory body, right? So we have these for the states as well. Right. So nothing more. I was hoping that I would get something for the case study material. So nothing as such over here. It can be probable topic, but not right now. If we have more of this, we will pick it up. Okay. Maharashtra, fine. Devotees queue up inside the Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar on Monday to offer holy water to the Shivling. I think it's very clear which deity it is associated with. I'll give you some homework. So for pre actually. So is this site a UNESCO World Heritage Site? Right. So this is there. Then the famous temples in the Odisha. Which of the temples are famous? So this you have to find out. And are there any UNESCO World Heritage Sites? Okay, 7 die as monsoon fury grips Kerala. Fine, same old thing. We have to talk about flood management. So flood management, this is a very, very important theme. It's a disaster management. So the general studies paper 3, disaster management, environment and disaster management are part of that. So flood management. And besides this, urban floods are being asked. Now, when I say this, it implies that you have to prepare a note of our vulnerability to floods. Obviously, you can give this anecdotal evidence that these things are happening. Plus, you can also give some facts by quoting the National Disaster Management Authority or any other agency. So easily we can get this. And then is obviously the urban floods. Kejriwal promises jobs, unemployment toll. Delhi. So this is with reference to the Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal. So him going to Gujarat for this elections, right? So he's offering doles. Monkeypox, fine. Africa swine flu. Yeah, this was the disease I was saying. So there was a slumpy skin, and then there is African swine flu. Right. So again, we have a disease over here. So in the opinion section, it is saying like, what should we do about these diseases? And you get some facts on this. So I feel this is important. Then this will also be under GS3. In fact, in 2015, the government came up with a 2015-16. It came up with a livestock policy, and similarly, a question was asked in the mains paper. So the importance of livestock also can be picked up, right? So this is a very, very important topic. Kerala opposes changes in to MMDR Act. Mineral Mines and where is it? Mineral Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act. So there is this law, as I think you can get it from the name itself, Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation. Fine, developing mines, regulating mines. So this is a law that is created by the parliament. So some changes have been made to the law. The state is having a problem. Okay, so this is it, and I think this we should stop over here because all states have a problem with this thing. Any changes that have taken place, so more powers to the center. So it basically says that Kerala, the state of Kerala, has this monzite sand. So it has this monzite sand, which can be used to make thorium. And thorium, as the name suggests, it is used for it can be used as a nuclear fuel. So monzite, obviously it will, if the so this is there, monzite is there. So what has happened is that the center has made some changes, the parliament, whoever has made some changes which allows the center to auction. So if center is auctioning, that means the revenue or the proceeds of whatever sale of monzite takes place will go to the center. So this, they have a problem. Naturally, Kerala, the state of Kerala will have a loss of revenue, so they will not like that. Okay, besides monzite, there is another reference of the rare earth. And I feel you should read more about these rare earths. These are important. So rare, not metals. Right, so what are these rare earths? Why are they important? What is the significance? So this you should prepare because this was in context of China. So I actually had made a question also on this, teaching somewhere else, so they had done it. So overall theme was still the same. Yeah. So authorities must communicate the potential severity of monkeypox. Fine. Using a rupee note, I'm not doing that. The language as a barrier, new education policy and assessment on that briefly from the point of view of language. I'm not doing that. It keeps coming. Using a rupee route to get around a dominating dollar. This is what is drawing my attention. And there is a reference of something known as Vostro accounts and Nostro accounts. Till now, I thought only laptops are named by this. So bank accounts are also there. It's fine. Okay. So there are these two contexts actually coming from this, right? So using a rupee for this thing. So this is coming from, one is that rupee is depreciating. So rupee's value is going down vis-a-vis dollar, right? So rupee is depreciating, dollar is appreciating. Dollar is the global currency. We have to buy crude, we have to buy gold, we are buying electronics. It is everything is going on in dollars. And our currency vis-a-vis dollars is depreciating much more rapidly as compared to, let's say, euro or pound, whichever currency. Okay, now it's like we can say, okay, fine, a rupee and ruble, Russian currency, you can compare. So ruble is also low, so with a rupee and ruble will be equatable. But in this case, I mean, if we compare it with dollar, rupee is depreciating. So when we are trading in dollar terms with any country, we are at a disadvantage, especially when we are importing. And we have to import crude energy basically, right? We don't have an option. We cannot make it in India or we cannot export it. And whatever we export is, we actually export bulk of our exports is a refinery only. But that is, we buy the petroleum and then we sell the refined one. Okay. So what the author is saying, Ms. Sunanda Sen, she's saying that ever since this Ukraine war, one, our currency is depreciating, and our trade with Russia, and this is the main theme of this article, that the trade with Russia has gone up. So Russia is selling us crude, it is selling us oil, natural gas at a discounted rate. So 30% discount at the market rate. Naturally, Russia is under sanction, it wants to sell its things. So Russia, and being our friend, we have been a bit soft on them. So they are selling us fuel at a lower price, lower than the market price. Okay. Now, what she's suggesting is that we should look at internationalization of rupee. Like dollar is internationalized, we should promote the currency rupee. And with reference to the Ukraine issue, right, with the war and the sanctions on Russia, with Russia's assets, foreign assets, predominantly in dollars, have been frozen. So what we can do is we can promote a rupee ruble arrangement. So rupee ruble trade can take place. Getting it? We buy and sell in rupee and dollar. Presently, what is happening is both of us do it in dollar terms. So why not do it directly? So that is the idea over here. So when we talk about the rupee ruble terms, naturally our reliance on dollar will come down. So that is one thing. It'll first rupee, and also if rupee and ruble rate is there, then both countries will try to achieve a balance of trade. So at present, India has a deficit of $3.5 billion. We don't export them much, but we import all these defense equipments. We are importing this oil. So the balance of trade is in favor of Russia. So the balance of trade is in favor of Russia because we are importing things. So what she's suggesting is that if we buy and sell in rupees and rubles, then what will happen is that Russia will have surplus rupees. If we buy these things in rupees, they will have surplus rupees, 3.5 billion into 70, 80, they will have surplus. So they will have to spend this rupee, and rupee can be spent with India only. So they can get all these other things of necessities like food items, clothing. So all that they can get for this money. So that is the idea that she is pitching over here. So yeah, so let's look at here. So I think we'll open this. Let's forget it. See, basically what they're saying is, let's say India is there. So India has a bank branch in, let's say, State Bank of India has a bank known as State Bank of India, Indian Bank. While there is Russia. Russia has some bank. I have no idea what their banks are called. So they have their bank, Russian bank, RB. So the Russian bank can have an account in the State Bank of India. They can have their account in State Bank of India. So that would be known as Vostro account. So Vostro means yours. Vostro means yours. So yours, Russia's bank account in an Indian bank. Likewise, India can have Nostro accounts in Russia. Nostro means our account in Russia. So we can have this Vostro and Nostro accounts from which we can easily facilitate trade. So rupee ruble trade. So that is what basic idea she is pitching. Okay, I am not doing this, but this is, this is an important topic, but I'm not interested in the opinion over here. But we get the theme. The theme is basically gig workers. UPSC asked this question also, not precisely this topic, but gig workers. So gig workers are, there is one class of workers that are employed permanently, salaried people. you get salary, fixed amount of salary, and you are associated with that company. So typically most of us want that work. Then there are people who work on gig basis or project basis or task basis. For example, I think best example is Ola and Uber. You work, you get paid, else you don't get paid. So this is kind of a contractual labor. What government is doing, I think most of us we can see is we are having this lot of freelance work. So freelance work means project-based work. So we are moving towards a gig economy. Sometimes it's said it is very wonderful, very good, but then personally also I've seen that when we go into this gig economy mode, one, that attachment of person with that company is no longer there. We don't put in that extra this thing effort. And other thing is that it is not very friendly to the people also, the friendly to the labor also. So they never know if they will be earning money or not. They may be easily removed from work. They don't have that employment securities, job security, etc. They don't have financial security. So this is not actually not a very good thing. Now, what we see with the government, and I think I have referred to this not as gig workers. So government, we see more and more of this outsourcing taking place. So one is that they are outsourcing work to contractors. So they give work to contractors, and the contractors apply people on the gig basis, right? So they don't get steady work. And besides, I would say that the government itself, to avoid paying salaries, regular salaries, having pension obligations, so they are like for teachers, government teachers, your ASHA workers. So all of them actually are employed on gig basis or contract basis. They are regular people. They will be there with them only, but still they are paying them not on salary terms, but on contract basis. So contracts keeps renewing all the time. Okay. So this is there. Yeah, I'm not saying much. Working towards animal health. Right, so working towards animal health, Mr. Atul Chaturvedi was a secretary in Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy. Okay, so first of all, I think we have a lot of references of diseases that are affecting the livestock. So here we can use some facts over here. Okay, so India has a livestock population of 1.6 billion. That translates to approximately 280 million farmers relying on livestock and related industries for livelihood. So we have 280 million and 1.6 billion livestock. So that many are there. Now recently, so globally, we have witnessed 9,580 instances of disease outbreaks from 2000 to 2010. See, why I'm saying this and why you should remember, you should use these, memorize these facts or use these facts on a regular basis. Whenever you are stating something, when you give a fact, that point automatically gets more legitimacy. So in the introduction, if there is a question talking to you about issues with the livestock or something, you using this fact, this thing will get improved. Okay, I'll just rub this. Yeah. So 9,580 instances of disease outbreaks from 2000 to 2010. 60% are zoonotic in nature. That is, they are coming from the animals. Right? It is zoonotic in nature. So we see an increase in 6%. So the incidence of disease is actually increasing 6%. Right? So compounded annual growth rate, year on year, it is increasing by 6%, which is not a good thing actually. Now these diseases, yes, animal diseases can eventually come into human beings, like maybe COVID-19 came from bats. We don't know for sure, but I think Ebola is there, again, animal-oriented disease, monkeypox. So these diseases can come to human beings, but this is normally does not affect human health directly. But these days, actually, we are seeing human beings are also getting affected. So there are many, 9,580 instances of disease outbreaks have taken place of this We can name a few only. So that way it's fine. Okay. So for this, what can be done? So in this background, we should focus on close collaboration between veterinary science and human health experts. Naturally, human health with more research has evolved much more as compared to the veterinary science. So both can work together, both can collaborate together. And remember, during the pandemic, we talked about One Health approach. That is, if a disease affects you animal, or if it affects human being, we should have an integrated approach to that, because more and more of these animal diseases are coming into the proliferating into the human beings. So we need to have a One Health approach. So with this line, the government of India, through its Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, has set up a dedicated One Health unit. Please, this is your homework. I know where it is, but which ministry would be responsible for this? So we should prepare not just for human pandemic, but also animal pandemic, because the number of people that may be affected in our country. Now, we can also leverage the National Digital Livestock Mission for the same purpose, for getting access to data, information on livestock health. Right, so this can be done. So far, synergies from advances in human vaccines have not leveraged into animal vaccine development. Right, so basically this is what it is. We should stop here. Nothing beyond this. So we have not been, for veterinary science has not gone to that extent as compared to this thing, human health science. So we should collaborate together. That is the basic idea. Basic idea over here. Okay, I have shared this article on again my Instagram page. I'm sharing images on Instagram actually. So, and the idea is that even I can revise, you can also revise. And I also have this OneNote where I keep these things for future reference. Yesterday, there was an article in the editorial section which talked about falling standards in the parliament. I think, and we well aware of that thing. And when we talk about falling standards in the parliament, naturally, we can also talk about effectiveness of the parliament. Right, effectiveness of parliament. So I have a video of that, what all parliament does, and obviously, if we're talking about effectiveness, that means we have to know the work of the parliament. So that is there. Okay. So we have one this thing, effectiveness of parliament. That analysis is ready. Now the next thing is, now this is very interesting. We have these nominated MPs in which house? Rajya Sabha. We have nominated MPs. 12 MPs are nominated according to Article 80, Subpart 3. So the president nominates. For persons having special knowledge, practical experience in matters such as literature, science, art, social service. So the idea is that they will bring more inputs, they will add to the quality of the debates and deliberations in the Rajya Sabha. So that is the idea. So the obvious question is, we have these 12 MPs who are getting appointed over here. They are getting the salaries, they are getting the pension, all the privileges. So what are they doing about it? They have this, they are in this position, they can do a lot of things. But what are they actually doing? So here there is a basic assessment. So see, their attendance, number of debates, all of them are low, right? Number of debates. More famous a celebrity, more lower is their participation. Number of questions raised and number of private bills introduced. So these are certain parameters that have been used to assess their performance, and it goes without saying, you can see the more famous the person, less the participation, more towards the left, this side, lesser is the contribution. Okay. You see this facts over here, text and context, news and numbers. This seems to be important. So this seems to be important over here. We get some indications like GST collection at rupees 1.49 lakh crore. Right. So this is the sixth time that the monthly GST collection has crossed the 1.4 lakh crore. So these are monthly collections. So 5G spectrum auction, rupees 1.5 lakh crore worth of this thing the spectrum has been sold. Then income tax returns. Again, income tax return, when we say it is also an indication, this is a theme actually, theme about tax burden. Tax burden, it's about, people say we're not paying adequate taxes, middle class is paying burden of the middle class. So this is a theme over here. Then we also have this thing known as, like we have the GST. So GST is kind of a tax reforms in indirect taxes. So income tax, corporate tax are not part of this. From a very long time, we have been talking about having a direct tax code, something like what GST was for sales tax, VAT, etc. So like that, direct tax code. So need to bring in the direct tax code. Okay, so about 5.83 crore had filed for this thing. Yeah, so I think this is all we have, ITR that has been filed. Around 4% actually pay the income tax, something like that is there. Okay, power consumption. So power consumption and Rozgar Andolan. So not okay. AlphaFold, a tour de force in science. Fine. So this is with reference to France actually. That is why this expression has been used. So what is this AlphaFold? And I feel this is important. And before going forward, please read this question over here. How have our methods of predicting protein structures changed with the AI-based tools? What does this development signify structural biology? So application of AI in biology or in structural biology, and how is it going to be beneficial? And we have an example of something known as AlphaFold, which was created by a company owned by Google. So DeepMind, a company owned by Google. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, if we read this, we are good enough. Read the gist over here. So this is a product. So AlphaFold is a product of a company known as DeepMind, which is owned by Google. And recently it predicted three-dimensional structures of more than 200 million proteins using AlphaFold. Okay. So what is the significance? This was done via AI. Typically, the scientists take a lot of time in identifying the protein structures. And they use spectroscopy, they observe things, they use nuclear magnetic resonance. So they observe all this, and then they come up with the protein structure. What would be the protein structure? And why is this protein structure important? Identifying. We have to do it because when the COVID thing also had taken place, we were trying to identify the protein structure of the virus. So based on that, we were able to identify, okay, fine, for this vaccine should be there. So specifically this mRNA vaccines that were introduced. Then Corbevax vaccine, also some strain of that protein is planted. The spikes of the protein of the virus was planted into the human blood. So to identify all this, naturally we have to know the protein structure. That is very, very important. But this was a very time-consuming process. Now with all this artificial intelligence, so what is basically this? That the machines have been trained with lot of inputs. So they have trained with lot of inputs, lot of things have been fed into it. So like previous protein structures are fed. So when new inputs are given, this machine, this thing, it tries to see, okay, fine, for this strain, this protein was there. So based on that, it visualizes what output should be there, what type of protein structure would be there. So it predicts that. So naturally, this is much more efficient. Presently, the scientists observe all this, then they collaborate, then they make a discussion, and then they come to a final protein structure. But here, the machine is quickly able to go through. You put the input in some time, the protein structure is there. So this is extremely beneficial and naturally beneficial in terms of drugs making, vaccination, and who knows, for organ making of the organs also, artificial organs, so that could also be a case. So this is it. Dwindling fighter strength of the IF. Whenever the MiG-21 crashes, we have these talks. Okay. So, it's recommended that we face a war, two-front war. So one coming from Pakistan and other coming from China. Possibility that we may have a simultaneous war. So for a two-front war, it is recommended that the Indian Air Force should have a strength of 42 fighter squadrons, like we have in army regiments but battalions. So likewise in Air Force, they are known as squadrons. So they are 42 fighter squadrons have been authorized, but we are nowhere near this. Right, so we are far behind this number, so we need to improve this. So the indigenous, for example, the indigenous light combat aircraft Tejas, with the induction of these Rafale and this thing, the squadron strength has gone to 32, at the present 32, while the sanctioned is 42, required is 42. Okay, but the wheels of justice grind exceedingly slowly. Not doing this, but this is about left-wing extremism, lack of development in those areas, lack of access to justice. When people don't get justice by lawful means, they use the means of guns. The president of Maldives, which is south of 8-degree channel, right? So from I'm telling you, has come to India. So this is India, 8-degree channel, Maldives, a series of islands like this. That's all. That is all. That is Maldives. So very, very close to us in the Indian Ocean region. The important 3 lanes of communication pass through this region. So very important strategically. China would like that they have their ports and their naval base in this region. So this will help counter India. So India doesn't like Chinese presence in the vicinity. Okay. So the basic politics over here is that India would like to have a person who favors India, while Chinese side would like to have their own this thing. So both keep meddling into their political affairs, but nobody acknowledges that. Okay, so President Soleh has come to India, and he has come to India at a time when there is unrest that is going in Maldives, especially anti-India this thing, right? So they don't like, they feel that Indians are manipulating the politics. So there is an external hand. So that they don't like, nobody will like that. Okay, so he's come to our country. And in this reference, we have this statement by the Foreign Minister Jaishankar. He says, our neighborhood first. So this is part of our neighborhood first policy of India. India engaging first with the neighborhood countries. And Maldives, India first policy. We want Sri Lanka also to have India first policy, Bhutan also to have India first policy, all these countries. So these policies are complementary. You will prioritize you if you prioritize us, something like that. Okay, so he has come to a country. So naturally, they will talk about strategy. They will talk about infrastructure, developmental projects. Most likely something not good in their country, financially speaking. Okay. Now here we have India is engaging in some infrastructure projects, particularly Greater Malay. So Malay is their capital. It is not Mail, it is Malay. So Greater Malay Connectivity Project, which will be built by an Indian company, Afcon. For this, $400 million line of credit has been given. Right, so line of credit, that is loan of $400 million has been given at a concessional rate. And besides, 100 million grant from India. So loans have to be returned, but grants are like you keep whatever you want to do, you keep with that. And typically, it is for a given purpose. right? So he has come to India. He's got these things over here. And before this, also India in 2018 December, India had offered $1.4 billion assistance. Okay, so this is there. Besides this article, from here on, it talks about political unrest between Soli, two India pro-India people, Soli and Mr. Nasheed. So both are pro-India. They are having this thing. Mr. Soli's government has taken action against Mr. Nasheed's political faction. Okay. Ideally, we would like them to be working unitedly, but that's not happening. Suspension of Congo MPs revoked. India shares concern over Chinese ship. So there is this Chinese ship which is in come to Sri Lanka, right? So come to Sri Lanka, as I said, we don't like Chinese ship coming to Maldives and Sri Lanka also. Obviously, we don't like that. So this satellite that this ship that has come, they say that it is having these radars, etc., to track the satellites that are there in space. And it is a legitimate maritime activity of the Chinese, while Indians have a reservation. And anyways, something that has having tracking and surveillance thing, India will naturally not like it. Yeah, need right strategies in right groups. Right, WHO officials call for risk communication, people knowing about what all risks are there with a particular disease, what all measures should be taken. And for that, community engagement must be there. Right, that is for any disease that should be there. Whatever the government also is doing, for example, isolation, tracking, medication, for that, community engagement is a must. Okay, so this is their normal rainfall expected. Fine. Amid China warnings, Pelosi to visit Taiwan. Myanmar Junta extends emergency by 6 months. Iran has no means to make atom bomb, no intentions of doing so. So this is coming from Iran itself. Right? So okay, manufacturing PMI hits 8-month highs. This is a good thing. So this is PMI Purchase Managers Index. So what does Purchase Manager, obviously if it says Purchase Managers Index, so what does Purchase Manager basically buy? Naturally, he'll buy raw materials and also certain services also. So both goods and services are part of the PMI, and it is a good indicator. If the PMI index is doing good, it's a good indicator that manufacturing sector is expected to do well. Okay, input cost inflation has slowed down to 11th month low. This is by another index, S&P Global. Okay, PMI is not released by the government, I think, or an intergovernmental agency. This is a private, not-for-profit initiative. Passenger vehicle sales rise on better chip supply. Maybe this is also contributing to the high GST collection. There was a backlog of semiconductors, so lack of manufacturing was taking place. So this could be a reason. Okay. Yeah, so this basically concludes our newspaper. So this is it from my side. This is sports section, right? So this is it. Bye bye. Bye bye. Take care and all the best.